Thank you very much for joining us. You're very, very welcome to the first in what is a series of EU Spotlight events. This one is focused on youth. My name is Emma Murta. I'm the European Programme Manager with The Wheel. And this event is a collaboration between the Wheel's Access Europe programme and the National Agency for Erasmus Plus, Léargas. So as you can see, our agenda for today is up on the screen there. We're going to have a short video welcome very soon from Minister Roderick O'Gorman. And then after that, we will be handing over to Audrey Riley for a kind of overview, a brief overview of Erasmus Plus Youth, what it is and what all of the opportunities are, before we commence our panel discussion. After the panel discussion, in around an hour, we'll have 10 minutes for a virtual coffee break, so we can take a little bit of a breather and refresh yourselves, because after that we will come back and we will have more of a deep dive into Erasmus Plus Youth and what exactly are the opportunities and how you can get involved. So the idea really is to give you some insights and inspiration in the first half of the day, maybe get you thinking about what potential Erasmus Plus Youth might have for your organisation, and then give you a little bit of a breather and come back and then go into the right, how do you actually get started and what's actually there and kind of more of the nitty gritty of it. So if you bear with me for a second, I'm going to line up my video, but please do, just as a note, mute yourselves if you're not talking, just because sometimes there can be dogs and children and all kinds of things in the background that can get in the way. So, please do, if you're not speaking, mute yourself in the background, and do feel free to say hello, as Christina said, in the chat box, and say who you are in your organisation and where you're calling from today. But before we jump in, as I said, we are very, very lucky to have a message from Minister O'Gorman here, which I'm going to play for all of you now to get our event kicked off today.
I'm delighted to be able to deliver a few words to open today's important event, highlighting the potential opportunities that European programmes like Erasmus Plus can provide for young people and youth organisations alike. Over the past nearly 35 years, the Erasmus Plus programme has supported thousands of youth projects and in turn millions of young people throughout Europe. The skills and competencies gained through participation in a programme like Erasmus Plus have been well documented and will be familiar to many of you attending today. These include critical thinking, creativity, initiative taking, problem solving, decision making and communication. It's a key mission of my department and of government as a whole that all young people, including those who are experiencing disadvantage or other adverse circumstances, are supported to develop their maximum potential. Part of this is enabling them to become effective contributors and active members of society. Participation in programmes such as this has a key role to play in that development journey. Taking part in Erasmus Plus has been shown to be a transformative experience for young people, providing them an opportunity to experience different cultures, broadening their horizons and supporting them to realise a potential within themselves which may have otherwise gone unrealised. Importantly, participation in European youth projects also contributes to the social inclusion of all young people, and in particular those with fewer opportunities. Research has shown that young people with fewer opportunities gain more from international mobility when compared to their counterparts who have had more opportunities. Participating in an international project and meeting people from different cultures is a boost for one's self-confidence, even more so for young people with fewer opportunities who may never have been abroad before. It is essential that we continue to make these programmes as accessible and as visible as possible. In Ireland, and indeed internationally, we are living through times of enormous uncertainty. The past year and a half has had a particularly adverse impact on young people, and I'm really conscious of the unique challenges faced by international youth projects. As we begin to emerge from the pandemic and I try to address some of the opportunity deficit created by the pandemic, programmes such as this will hold even greater importance. I would encourage all youth organisations to get involved with Erasmus Plus, as not only does it offer incredible opportunities to the young people you work with, but also opportunities for you as organisations to develop, expand or implement innovative projects through a partnership project. 2021 is the first year of the the new 7-year programme and is a perfect opportunity to get involved and discover what's on offer. I'd like to close by thanking both Léargas and The Wheel for the opportunity to speak today. I'd also like to pay tribute to Léargas for your work ensuring the effective management and promotion of these programmes at a national level, especially over the past very challenging period. Thank you.
Great. So a lovely message there from Minister O'Gorman, and a big thank you to him and his department for providing us with that. But right now we're going to hand over to Audrey Riley of Léargas, who's going to give us a little bit of an overview of Erasmus Plus Youth. So over to you, Audrey, when you're ready.
Yeah, thank you. I think I have the right one. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all well, and thank you to Emma and Christine for inviting me along today for the event. So I'm going to do a quick overview of the Erasmus Plus programme, really brief, just to give you an idea of what it is. So starting from the very beginning, what is Erasmus Plus? It's an EU programme and it supports education, training, youth and sports in Europe. So the programme launched this year, so there was the new programme of 2021 to 2027 launched earlier this year, and I suppose Léargas, where Léargas comes in is that we are the national agency for Erasmus Plus for the fields of adult education, school education, vocational education and training, and more specifically youth. So that's what we're kind of here for today. So Léargas does manage those different fields, and I'm in Léargas part of the youth team, so I'm here today to talk about that. So I've just got a little video here that kind of highlights the priorities of the programme. So these are kind of key priorities that are horizontal across all of the fields, and they're really what the programme is about, or the current programme is about. So hopefully, I don't think I shared my sound actually. So I might have to stop sharing and share again.
It's no problem, don't worry.
Yeah, no, I am sharing my sound. Okay.
The Erasmus Plus programme has specific objectives to promote learning mobility of individuals and groups in the fields of education, training and youth, promote cooperation, quality, inclusion and innovation in organisations that work in education, training and youth. The Erasmus Plus 2021 to 27 programme will achieve these objectives by realising 4 key priorities: inclusion and diversity, digital transitions, environment and the fight against climate change, participation in democratic life. Erasmus Plus promotes equal opportunities and access, inclusion, diversity, and fairness across all areas, with a focus on organisations and participants with fewer opportunities. The COVID-19 crisis highlighted the importance of digital education, the need for digital transformation, the significance of harnessing digital technologies for teaching and learning, and the demand for developing digital skills for all. Environment and climate action are key priorities for the EU now and in the future. The European Green Deal is the European New Growth Strategy. It recognises the key role of schools, training institutions and universities to engage with pupils, parents and the wider community on the changes we need for Europe to become climate neutral by 2050. Strengthening European identity and the participation of young people in democratic processes is of huge importance to the European Union's future. This priority supports people to become actively engaged with their communities and with political and social life. To find out more and to get your project started, visit www.erasmusplus.ie.
So that's kind of a nice summary video for the different priorities that this program is trying to achieve. And you can kind of see as well how these priorities kind of intersect or interlink, you know, when you're talking about participation of young people, you might be thinking about inclusion and diversity, you might be thinking about sustainability or climate goals. So they do kind of overlap a lot, especially in the youth program, I think, as well. So just to give you an idea of what the youth program is about, well, it funds international European projects for young people and the people that work with them. So it's for young people and youth workers, youth leaders, youth volunteers, everyone involved in youth work. And they provide opportunities for young people, youth workers, their youth leaders to learn, develop, share through non-formal and informal learning. And that's kind of a key element of the Erasmus Plus Youth program, is that it's informal and non-formal learning. So it happens outside of formal education, and it provides those opportunities for growth and development. And these activities are meant to have a significant impact on the young people, the organizations and the communities in which they live. So there should be a change for everyone kind of involved within the project. And there are lots of different kinds of opportunities within the program. And I'm just going to do a very quick overview of this, because later on I'll go into a little bit more depth about what these different activities are. So there is lots of opportunities, and within the Erasmus Plus Youth, we have what are called 2 key actions. So key action 1 involves 3 different types of projects. So we have mobility projects for youth workers, we have youth exchange projects, and we have youth participation activities. Again, I'll do a deeper dive into what those project types are and what's involved later on. Key action 2 involves cooperation partnerships and small scale partnerships. Again, I'll talk about them in a little bit more depth later, but just to give you an idea, they're really about exchanging best practice, developing new and innovative practices within the youth fields, things like that. So it's about organizations collaborating together to develop youth work. And then there is one other opportunity that's within the new program. So it's a new feature in the new program, which is the youth accreditation. And this allows, once an organization applies for accreditation and they're successful, it allows them streamlined access to funding within the Key Action 1 projects. So what it offers is an opportunity for organizations to develop kind of a long-term plan for the use of Erasmus funds, and then they can kind of apply for an annual grant request every year. So that's kind of a general overview of the Erasmus Plus Youth Programme and the opportunities involved. Hopefully you'll be able to stay around with me later to go into more detail about what those different project types are what they look like in reality. So that is it from me. I can take any questions if there is anything on that. Otherwise, I'll pass back over to Emma.
Great. Thank you very much, Audrey. If people do have any questions, please do feel free to pop them into the chat there. But certainly if you hang around until the training session, which will be later on after our coffee break, there'll be loads of opportunities to talk to Audrey and to ask her questions and things like that. And of course, Léargas are an excellent support service all around. So if you have any questions even later on, if you think of any, I'm sure you can reach out and they'll be happy to help. So we're going to move forward into the panel section of today's session. We were missing one panelist and we're hoping he will be able to join us very shortly. But we're just going to go ahead anyway and get stuck in. I'll go ahead and maybe my 2 panelists can turn on their cameras and I'll be able to introduce them. So Audrey will stick around just to be on the panel in case any technical questions pop up, but we're going to focus more on the other participants to get their insights and their ideas, and we'll come back to Audrey for her comment at the end. But just to introduce who we have here today, so we have Dermot O'Brien of the National Youth Council of Ireland. He has a training facilitation role in their Youth Voices programme, which is the Irish version of the EU Youth Dialogue. And then we also have Rachel Kelly, who is a project leader at Finglas Youth Resource Centre, which is especially active in Erasmus Plus Youth Mobility projects. So maybe, let me just see, I see that there's people in the waiting room. So, oh my gosh, just in the nick of time. Who would have thought it? So, I've just introduced our first two panelists. So we had Dermot and Rachel, and now I'm going to introduce Kelvin, who's just joined us. So Kelvin, maybe you can turn on your camera when you get a chance, and I'll start with your introduction. So we have Kelvin Aklu, a global facilitator, dance instructor, and spoken word artist with a focus on human rights, inclusion, integration of minorities, and community and youth development. And he has a very unique perspective today because he's been both a participant in an Erasmus Plus Youth project and is now a coordinator of youth exchanges for through his role at Eurobug International. So I think I have my three panelists here. As I said, please do turn on your cameras and everything. But we'll go through one by one first. And my very first question to all of you is to tell me a little bit about your background in EU programs and how you were involved in Erasmus Plus Youth now. So maybe Dermot, I'll start with you first. Let's see you at the moment. And if you aren't speaking, if you're not one of my panelists, please do mute yourself so that we don't hear any of your background noise. So Dermot, I can see from the participant box here that you are muted and your camera is off. So maybe we can move on to our next participant if Dermot needs a minute. So Rachel, would you like to join us first? So
yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so I'll repeat the question for you to make it a little bit easier. So maybe you can tell me a little bit about your background in EU programs and how you're involved in Erasmus Plus Youth now.
So I suppose we would have done youth exchanges many years ago, but like one or two kind of ad hoc ones. But then in 2015 we got involved, and I suppose we've been very active since then. We would host pre-COVID, obviously, we would host maybe one or two exchanges in Ireland, and probably do one or two across Europe as well a year. So maybe 3 to 4 exchanges annually. Like.
Great, excellent. And the same question then I'll go to Dermot now, as I can see on the screen now. So your background in EU programs and how you're involved in Erasmus Plus Youth now.
How's it going? Sorry, my camera was letting me down. Surprise, surprise.
That happens.
So yeah, I'm Dermot. I'm part of the Young Voices program within the National Youth Council. So what's really interesting about how we operate is that we are already kind of embedded in this structure of how Europe talks to young people, gives them opportunities to discuss issues that are important to them, and gives them a platform to channel into decision-making structures and to maybe provide insight from a youth perspective, or some challenging demands, or to have a perspective on an emerging issue. But alongside that, like if I think of every success that we've had in our Young Voices program, it always relates to how the Erasmus Plus and the Léargas dimension adds the scaffolding for us to do good stuff. And that might sound, do good stuff, what does that mean, Dermot? But what I'm really saying is, when a young person from Donegal wants to come to Dublin for a youth event that we're providing to enhance and increase their participation, it's the Erasmus Plus / Léargas funding that gives them the potential to do that. Or when a group of young people say, we want to have a European seminar and invite partners from Austria and France and Belgium to talk about this important issue, then what we say is, oh, well, there's an application for that. So let's sit down and put that together. And then they own the journey of that process. And just the fruits of it really are just shining through. But I think that scaffolding is the critical part for me when I reflect on all the good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, that's an interesting way of putting it, the scaffolding of the work that you do. I suppose, Rachel, would that kind of hit home with you guys as well? I mean, is it integral to your everyday work? Is it how, is it connected to your operational work?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great way of describing it, Jeremy, for sure. I think that Erasmus Plus funding allows us to do things maybe that the national funding piece is not allowing us to do, because it adds that extra, unique piece that's providing opportunities that these young people wouldn't be getting unless this funding was there, that kind of way. And I suppose, yeah, like we've seen that, from using Erasmus Plus funding, young people have just developed and gained so much from it, the skill set, the confidence that they've got, from just engaging in youth exchanges. And then what I always love is when young people are coming back from a youth exchange and they're like crying, and they're like, you know, their life is over because this youth exchange is over, and they've just had, like, their emotion is raw because they've just had such a unique experience, and they'll talk about it for, like, you know, years on end, and they want to know, when are we going on the next one? And it's just amazing to see, and I think that's, yeah, it adds extra value to the work that we already do.
Absolutely. That's it's lovely to hear, I suppose, that kind of very personal impact that it has on them, and a seemingly very life-changing impact. But I suppose, you know, beyond, I suppose, the fact that it's a positive, fun experience, do you see it having an impact in terms of personal development, professional development, I suppose, things like that? And that's for you, Rachel, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I suppose even in my own personal experience, like, I've, you know, got involved in a lot of different mobilities since 2015, and it's definitely developed my whole career pathway. You know, I was a youth worker in 2015. I'm now a manager of a youth service. You know, I also, you know, I'm part of the national training pool for Léargas as well. And yeah, I think it's definitely developed my skill set as a manager, as somebody working in the youth sector. And I even see lots of the other youth workers here who have engaged in youth worker mobilities. You know, it's definitely developed their whole skill set and outlook. And I think as an organisation, we've grown massively from getting involved in this line of work.
Great, thank
you. I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely, no, 100%, and we'll have plenty of time. Just to remind everybody, if you have any questions for our panelists, please do pop them in the chat box, and my good colleagues will be keeping an eye on them and sending them directly to me, and we can get to them in a little while. I think we have Kelvin now, so I might go back to him and just see, Kelvin, can you hear me and see me and everything?
Yes, please. Really sorry.
Not at all. Look, technical issues happen in our everyday Zoom world, so you know, this is just part of life now. So just to start off, I asked everybody to tell me a little bit about their background in EU programs and how you were involved in Erasmus Plus Youth now. So I suppose the same question to you. Maybe you can give us a little bit of info there.
Hello, my name is Kelvin Akbalu. So basically, how I got into Erasmus Plus, my own is from a participant's background. I kind of like knew about it, Erasmus Plus, in 2016. I had never heard nothing about like Erasmus Plus, or didn't even know nothing about European issues. All I knew was like, I'm in Ireland and I'm trying to do something. And then I got involved. My first project was in Serbia, which was through the National Youth Council of Ireland, through the program called No Hate Speech Movement. And then I really kind of like found myself in there because as a young person, I'm battling social, like I live in social kind of like issues like racism daily. And I always wanted to kind of like share and find a way to educate, but I feel like my voices could be heard. So when I went into Erasmus Plus in Serbia, I saw young people the same age as me really getting their voices to be heard and using all kind of forms of methods like through dance or photography or something like that. And I found myself in there and I said, this is the place where I can actually, I can get my voice to be heard, not just within Ireland, but internationally, and connect with other young people. And from then on, I got involved with Eurobug, and Eurobug is an organization that really focuses on young people and let young people actually decide what kind of projects they want to write. And from then on, from through Eurobug, I wanted to learn more about Erasmus Plus rather than just being a participant. So I went from a participant to a youth leader. And then from a youth leader to now one of the creative director of the organization and one of the people that writes projects for other young people to participate. So this is how I kind of like got involved in it.
Great, that's excellent, Kevin. I think I'll have more questions for you now in a moment about, I suppose, your takeaways from that, because it is a unique perspective, having started as a participant and kind of worked your way from there to where you are now. So you've got you've seen both sides of the process there. But maybe to come back to Dermot, I suppose just to tell us a little bit about, so Young Voices is the version of EU Youth Dialogue here in Ireland. And I suppose maybe you could just tell us a little bit about how that works, how, it's all about ensuring, the EU Youth Dialogue is all about ensuring that young voices are heard in the formation of EU youth policy. So how does this actually work in practice, and what impact has it had on EU youth policy?
It's a great question, and it kind of, when you're, it's always interesting for me to describe the story of what happens in this journey of let's gather together. There's an issue we want to talk about, and I suppose to kind of frame it, there's at EU level there's a thematic area of priority that's decided, and then there's an invitation across all the member states to open up conversations and have dialogue with young people, but also to facilitate their engagement with decision makers, both national and at European level. And it's really about so what might sound like a big cumbersome and kind of high level engagement for us is really about creating opportunities to bring young people together, give them a sense of the fact that what might be an issue for them in their own little bubble of their own community may also be an issue for a young person in another part of Europe. And that if it is, and they both have a sense of the impact of that on them, and there's a similarity between that, or there's common ground about what they think is important that needs to change, then there's power in connecting those thoughts and those ideas. And there's also power in the invitation to invite young people to say from decision makers at European level and at Irish level, because again, there's a real positive engagement with government departments, with legislators, with the CEOs of big organizations, where it says, well, we want to have a dialogue with you. And we want to hear if the big issue for you is mental health, or the big issue for you is mobility, or the big issue for you is access to unemployment, then you're living that. And we want to hear about what it means to live that and what ideas you might have about how that can change. And for us, it's about creating spaces where young people can gather, where there's, again, we bring our youth work methodologies. So it's not about keynote speeches and PowerPoint presentations. It's more about roundtable discussions and people deciding how do we prioritize and sharing each other's views from their own points of view and perspective and supporting. Like for us, we always show a slide in every event that says who are all the actors in this, and the actors are, the first one is always the EU flag because that's the context. But then you have there's the European Commission, the European Parliament, Léargas is in there, the department is in there, National Youth Council is in there. But we also show them that there's a journey of their work. And we really, our challenge is always to honor them, to be able to show them at any point that what you contribute here carries into these spaces. And that's, we find that a really healthy challenge. And that's why we would send the young people from Ireland to the EU Youth Conference, wherever that might be in Europe. And we would bring young people into government departments to present the findings from their work. They've developed posters, they've developed videos. There's a deck of cards that we have out at the moment, which is supporting young people's participation and empowerment, which is quite literally the emergence of how Young Voices has operated. And now it's a tool for anyone who works with young people to support them in pursuing change. So we get artifacts out of our work, we get ideas out of our work, and we pursue policy change. So, we've had young people go into government to tell them how important it is to impact assess every decision that's made, every piece of legislation that's developed, impact assess in terms of young people, and to kind of push the boat out on that. And so it's, what might sound sometimes like a high level thing is really very much ground level. And we'll go and visit people in their own spaces and invite them also to gather in big spaces and find a way to connect with the right type of young people and make sure that they're all represented, that all the voices are heard, I suppose, is an ongoing challenge.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because a lot of the time people can feel like, particularly, young people themselves can feel like the EU is very distant and it's not very relevant to their everyday lives. But even youth workers and youth organizations, when you're caught up in operational work, it can feel like, you know, all of this EU stuff is nice and everything, but it's not really connected to our local priorities, and it's not, you know, it's not really relevant, and we've got more pressing local concerns to deal with. So I suppose if somebody were to say that to you, what would be your response?
So my first response would be the theme that we've just spent 18 months working on is a youth goal that's defined as space and participation for all. And it's, so if I walk out my door or I go and meet a group of youth workers here in Bray, where I'm located, and ask them, or a group of young people on the street corner in the middle of the night in Bray, and say, what's going on for you? And they would say, oh, we'd rather be indoors somewhere, or there aren't enough spaces for us to gather, and something needs to change about that. So once we work our way up through the structures, and there are people who have the power to make decisions around that. But what's also interesting is when we gaze across Europe and we wonder, is that a prevailing issue for young people across Europe? Civic spaces, because if we recognize how important it is for young people to gather and have conversations and talk about the issues of the day and learn and develop and grow in terms of their worldview, then by not considering the need in terms of space and participation, we'll end up picking up the pieces of young people who are disaffected, disengaged, and there's no proximity to those of us who have a role to support them. So when we're looking for policy change, what's great is that it goes up the line into the European spaces, and then recommendations come back out of those spaces and they land back in our national government. And then we leverage that. So we pull that down into our space again that says, this is a recommendation from a European level about how we should do things in Ireland. So let's explore how we roll that out here in a way that's appropriate, feasible, achievable. And that's, again, doable, I would say.
Yeah, very good, absolutely. And so Rachel, I suppose to you then, again, as an organisation or that is operating very much at a local level and dealing with local issues, I'm sure, how does that kind of resonate with you? Like, do you feel there's a disconnect between your EU work and your local work, or are the two kind of linked in some way?
I would say they're very linked. I think, you know, sometimes you would think that a group of young people from Finglas and a group of young people maybe from a rural part of the Netherlands have nothing in common, but believe me and you, they do when they actually meet. And, you know, they're young people at the end of the day, and they have very similar things going on, and it's also good for them to see difference as well. You know, like we've one local issue we would have is that Finglas is a huge place, and sometimes if you're from the west of Finglas, you don't go to the south of Finglas. It's that kind of, you know, view. So really, if we can get a group then to go, actually, you know, let's go to a different country, then they might start when they come back going, okay, well, we can go down to the south and we can go to, you know, different places in Dublin even, you know, that way. So it's getting young people to broaden their horizons and look outside of actually where they're, you know, where they're based, if it is whatever part of English it might be, and yeah, we definitely see there's a huge connections, and then also we've had young people, you know, they're here and they're giving out about everything, and then they go and see a different country, and then they come back and go, actually, we actually are quite privileged here in Ireland, and you know, we have lots of, and that piece I think is really important, because they might have never seen that piece either, you know, that kind of way, if they hadn't experienced it. So yeah, I think there's a lot of connection, but there's also differences as well, and I think it's important for young people to see them differences as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so there's a huge role in it in terms of broadening the horizons of the people that you're working with every day and opening up their minds and building them up personally and in terms of their competencies and everything. But and as an organisation, as Finglas Youth Resource Centre, what has this type of funding and these types of projects meant for you? Like, what impact has it had on your colleagues, on the way you do business, all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, I suppose it's, like I said kind of at the beginning, like it adds funding that we don't get at a national level, you know, that we wouldn't be able to provide young people with these kind of residential week-long exchanges. We wouldn't have the funding to do something like that, so it allows us to provide, you know, these really exciting opportunities, you know, in terms of how we manage to work. You know, we try to, annually at the start of the year look at, okay, realistically what we can do, because it is a little bit different to the day-to-day running of the service. It is, 2 youth workers maybe going on a week or 10 days exchange, and what that impact might be then. So we try to kind of do them at times of the year where we are able to do that a little bit more, and that it doesn't impact the service to day-to-day running too much. And in terms of I suppose just managing, what else did you ask me? Sorry about that.
I suppose, here. No, not at all. Yeah, I suppose the impact that it's had, like, does it change the way you operate? Has it helped to professionalize? Has it had an impact on your colleagues in terms of their professional development, things like that?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it has. And I think what it does is that sometimes you could be working with a group of young people for a year or 2 years, and, you're trying to get those outcomes, and it's just, you're not getting there. But I think when you bring a group away on a youth exchange for a week, you have constant access to them for that whole week. And it reinforces kind of why you're doing the work, and it provides outcomes that maybe would take it much longer to do if you were only seeing them for a week. So I think that piece is really important. And definitely I think this, like, youth workers here would say, when they've come back from youth exchange, it's a challenge at times, but the learning that they've gained from it, and it's just really built on their professional development and who they are as a youth worker. And I haven't had a youth worker come back and say, I'm never doing one of them again. Okay. As much as they're tired and all that kind of stuff, it's they want it that way.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, no, I think that's a ringing endorsement. If they're willing to do it again, that's always a good sign. So thank you, Rachel. So Kelvin, to come to you, as I said earlier, you have a very unique perspective, and having been a participant and then having transitioned to actually coordinating. So I suppose, starting from your point of view as a participant, Rachel mentioned there, it's challenging, but there's a lot of learning. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience? What did you find challenging? What did you take away from it? So yeah, over to you when you're ready.
So for me, in the very beginning, I was quite nervous, because when you hear the word European, it gives you, it brings a whole different level kind of like thing into your mind. So, but in the very beginning, my main focus was, what I wanted to learn, or what is a new experience for me that I want to take in and bring back. And I quite remember when I applied and I got accepted, I Googled what is Erasmus Plus, and start to learn everything within it. And even to be honest, actually, there was a Erasmus Plus program that was being done in our local kind of like arts council. And they tried in 2014 was when I nearly had opportunity to go, but I was denied a visa. And but around that time in 2016 came, I was Irish citizen. So to go, it was my first kind of like project with my Irish passport, going to this whole place that I've never heard, like Serbia, I've never heard before, connected before. But then when I got there, you also have this kind of like thing in your mind, okay, I'm representing Ireland, so this whole kind of like a feeling of nerves, but a little bit of pressure. You have to behave well, do good. But all of this washed away, because I realized that the young people that were there, or from different Balkan countries that also came into that day event, were also nervous, but we made it. We were all kind of like focused and wanted to learn something from each other. And for me, it was beautiful. First time traveling outside Ireland with my Irish passport. First time that I was not denied Irish passport entry to any European country. It was full of excitement, and something that I didn't want to let it stop. So even when I came back, I write spoken word poetry, and it was on that event that I wrote a poem that called Migration, because a friend that I met in there told me, Kelvin, why don't we write something about journey? and he said something very deep. So it was the first time that I wrote something about migration, and that migration was a poem. It's about my journey traveling from leaving Africa and coming to Europe, and my parents' journey. So that Erasmus Plus program or project at that day really did a lot for me, plus made me wanted to share my story outside the world. So when I came back to Ireland, the first thing that I did was I was connected with my local, I'm a choreographer and teach young people, migrants like myself, dance. So the first project that we did, that I kind of like facilitated and kind of like choreographed we were a group of 40 that I taught, we called it We Are Here, Migration, and young people sharing their stories about true dance, about how they migrated from one country to another. So the project really lifted something within me and really wanted my creative side, plus at the same time to feel like I am now actually a citizen. Because I always question, when I had my passport, the first question I always said to myself was, wait, I am an Irish citizen, but when I go outside, people always, you hear that, go back to your country again. So it made me question even what citizenship meant, because if I am, is citizenship by just having a passport or by the people recognizing you that you are part of the country? So me going into this project really gave me that hope and said, wow, now I can feel like I'm Irish. I feel like it because I was not denied, I was listened to. And I came back, and my experience that I got, I'm being given the platform to share that opportunity. And from then on, Eurobug also took me in, and kind of like every project, giving me tips, giving me a bit of like facilitating workshop within the project itself to use my artistic kind of like skills within it, and to empower me, plus also empowering other young people. So that was what I got as a participant. My view.
Excellent. Very good. Absolutely. I think that'll probably resonate with a lot of people who maybe, have seen this in the young people that they work for, this sense of identity and who they are and representing, even that whole process of kind of representing your country. There's a great bit of pride in that. And it's a big experience for a young person to have. And I suppose and then you're obviously sharing that experience now with others through your role in Eurobug. So have you seen that impact on the young people that you're working with now yourself?
At the moment, like when I came back, I also created a project, like my first ever project that I wrote with help from Eurobug, like Erasmus Plus project, was called Bridges Not Walls. And that project, when we came back, the impact, I would say, before I come to international wise, was really huge, because the young people that came to that project from all parts of Europe, like Italy, Spain, and Lithuania, all at the end of the project was like, wow, Kelvin, why don't we do again? So I ended up creating a group that with outside that wanted to do this project again. So through the group, we kind of like applied again. But nationally, the other young people that also came from Eurobug, also, we decided to create a group called Spectra, Eurobug Youth Spectra. So what I got from it was that we do have other young people who are Irish, but also live maybe outside the country, but they're still Irish. But their views and their voices needs to be heard, because their family lives here, the nationality they are. So we created a group online called Spectra, where we meet every Sunday and talk about social issues and how to tackle it. And we invite other young people, we invite activists, like we got the opportunity to have Dermot even on our event to talk about local politics and kind of like national politics, the difference between when we're talking about politics. We invited a young person from when the Black Lives Matter movement happened from America to come. So the impact that happened on this project nationally is happening. We have been able to develop a group that is now speaking up or is now really into politics. What I found out was that when you ask a young person, oh, do you want to be a politician, or what is politics? they straight away go, no, I don't want nothing to do with politics. But it was in Erasmus Plus project when a young girl from Italy told me, Kelvin, you are a politician. And I said, no, I'm not. And then she said to me, she said, why? And I said, because I don't want to be in the parliament. I don't want to be those people in the parliament with suits and arguing about something that needs to be actually changed, you know, that will benefit us, but we have to argue about it. And she said, no, you actually, how you bring people together and everybody us talking and sharing. This is a politician. It's no, you don't have to be a. So we do now have young people who also see themselves something similar, not like being in parliament, but being able to get their voices out there. So we are having like a ripple effect nationally and also internationally. So yeah,
it's very exciting.
Going good so far.
Yeah, excellent. Well, look, that's really, really good. There's some excellent kind of insights there. I'm going to come to Audrey now in a moment, just to maybe, and I will come back to each of the panelists because I have one final question for all of you in a moment to allow everybody to kind of sum up and make any final points that they might not have gotten to make so far. But Audrey, do you want to, just based on that, we've heard, you know, about the kind of sense of the impact on young people, that there's this sense of pride and leadership and kind of opening minds, and that for organizations, you know, it's a real opportunity to have an impact on policy. That there's a lot of professional fulfillment, and there's definitely kind of fast tracking certain objectives and strategies that organizations might have. So for organizations that are listening in and they're thinking, wow, this sounds really, really interesting and I'd like to get involved, what should they do? Should they reach out to Léargas? What should their first steps be?
Yeah, definitely reach out to us. You know, we provide a range of different kind of supports. So you can, you know, find the staff on the website, so you can go through our website to find out, you know, who we are and to find the right person. I'm part of the youth team, as I said earlier, so if you're interested in youth exchanges or any of these projects, I can be a good point of contact and I can direct you to where you need to go. We provide lots of different supportive workshops, so we have, you know, from first steps, you know, discovery days, you know, kind of getting the feel for what the program is, like how you could fit into it, to project labs, so developing your project ideas, right to the application clinic. And we even do kind of one-to-one support around the technicalities of applying. And then also, like, we do a lot of thematic events and training events and things like that as well, to support organizations to kind of develop their international competencies and things like that. So you know, we're here to help, so definitely reach out to us directly. Also, you know, reach out to organizations that you know that are involved in the program, ask them questions, because they're a huge resource. Like, you know, when you're hearing Rachel and Kelvin and you know, everybody speaking about what it's like to be involved in these projects, you know, they have the real picture, the real story as well. So yeah, definitely talk to us and talk to anyone else who's involved.
Great. Okay, and I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to go revisit my panelists and just ask them, you know, we've heard from Audrey, this is what they need to do to get involved. To all of my panelists, a lot of the listeners here today will be deciding whether to start or to scale up their Erasmus Plus youth activity if they're already involved. What would your message be to them? So maybe Dermot, I'll come to you first. What's your message to our listeners? No, or maybe I will skip forward and ask Rachel to go first. So Rachel, what would your message be to our listeners today?
Yeah, I think the message is just, you know, if you can get involved, and you will definitely, you know, see the benefits. I would say my tips would be for getting involved would be maybe either you or somebody in your organization to maybe go and do a youth worker mobility to start off, to really kind of really see what actually is involved, you know, get that whole international experience. Because if you want young people to get involved in an international experience, you know, as we kind of always say, you know, don't ask young people to do something that you aren't willing to do yourself. So I would definitely recommend that. And you know, it does mean that you have to step out of your own comfort zone and challenge yourself, and you know, the learning you'll get from that will be amazing. And then I'd say, yeah, link in with Léargas, and just to kind of say, through challenging times with different projects. You know, Léargas are always at the other end of the phone, and it's great. And in terms of the Finger Shoot Resource Centre, if there is anybody, you know, interested in getting involved and wants to talk to another youth centre, you know, afterwards, if you want to give me a shout, that's no problem. And just best of luck, because it'd be amazing what Erasmus Plus projects can do for the young people that you work with. So I'm a huge advocate for getting involved. So best of luck with it.
Thank you very much, Rachel. I think we've lost Dermot, so we go straight on to Kelvin. What would your message be to people today who are thinking about getting involved?
If I don't know if there's any young people here that wants to start, but first will be to the young people. I think it's a brilliant opportunity to really get your voice to be heard, but also to see what is going on around Europe. Sometimes when we talk about Europe, we seem to see it as an other, but remember that Ireland is also within Europe, and it's part of it. So your voice count. It could be nerve-wracking in the beginning, but I promise you that it's an experience that you will never forget, because what it will bring out from you is much greater. It did it for me. I always say to my friends or my young migrants who feel like, oh, their voices are not being heard, that get yourself into these type of programs. And so for me, from a participant background, when I started, I would just say, if you're working with an organization, working with young people, try to also advise that I would say is try and use their needs or their talents to really write the project and get them involved in the project. Because once you do that, they feel like they are part of it and they feel that it's their project. And that means they are more motivated and more encouraged to go into the project and to even have an effect on them in the beginning, after the project. Erasmus Plus has done so much for me. Since I started from a participant, now I have been in so many places where I never thought I could be. I was in a space, like I went to I represent Ireland in the European Youth Conference. I was in a room with former prime ministers when they came to Ireland. I have met so many other young people around in Europe that are really strong and advocate of social issues, human rights, and something that I am really connected with. And I never thought I would meet these young people. So please get involved. Encourage every young person that wants to do it. I am an image that you can show that it can happen. It will. So thank you so much, Léargas. And thank you, I would say, for this type of programs and what you're doing nationally for also all the young people and organizations. And then, yeah, and enjoy the process as it comes also. That is what I'll say.
Thank you, Kelvin. That's very inspiring there at the end. Absolutely, I 100% agree that the co-creation element and working with young people to design the projects is so important. It really helps them to get the most out of it and feel ownership over it. And it's just incredible opportunities to offer people, obviously really life-changing. So anybody who's working with young people, it can be challenging to get into it. It can be challenging to wrap your head around it at the beginning, and there is a bit of learning involved, but it's 100% worth it. I think we've seen that from all of our panelists today. And just we are going to have a 10-minute break now shortly, but just to note before we finish up for that, first of all, I have to say a huge thank you to all of the participants who were here today. So we had Dermot and Rachel and Kelvin, and then also our co-coordinators at Léargas. So we have Audrey Riley and the team at Léargas who were very helpful in organising everything today, and who inputted and who are going to be leading our training session now in a few minutes. And of course, just encourage you to reach out to Léargas. We're so lucky in Ireland to have an excellent national agency who are so supportive and who are really involved and really help organisations to access funding. From the Wheel side of things, many of you heard about this event through the Wheel, and this is brought to you by our Access Europe programme. So this is, you can see the purpose of the programme there. It's funded by the Department of Foreign Affairs, and it's a 3-year programme. It's all about trying to connect Irish civil society groups, community voluntary groups to EU funding. And so that's why we're cooperating closely with Léargas on this. We provide updates on EU funding. So we actually research all of the EU funding, Erasmus Plus and beyond, that civil society are eligible for. We condense it down into a monthly newsletter that's completely free. We really urge you to sign up and follow us on Twitter for just to keep up to date on everything that's out there, because it is a lot of information. There's free training and events like this one-to-one advice. So whether it's Erasmus Plus or other types of funding that you're interested, or other types of projects, we can help you kind of find a home for your idea within EU programs, and then we'll signpost you. So if we meet an organization and what they're talking about, what they want to do is very obviously an Erasmus Plus youth project, we'll point them towards Léargas and the experts there. But there's also lots of other funding opportunities that you might be interested in. So we're a good kind of central hub for that kind of thing. And then we also provide networking opportunities locally and at EU level. So we're really interested in, core to Erasmus Plus, especially as partnership, and finding partners and managing partners can be really difficult. So we're there to support organizations to do that. And coming very soon, and on the 13th of December, we will be launching our partnership database. So you can upload your organization into our database, and we will be kind of heavily promoting that around Europe and promoting Irish organizations as partners to be invited into projects. So I think that's a really valuable, really good first step in starting your EU journey. So we will send information in the follow-up about all of this stuff, Léargas, Access Europe, all kinds of information that is available. So just keep an eye on that follow-up email. Click in and follow along with newsletters and social media and stuff like that, and sign up to our event on the 13th of December, where we will be launching our partnership database. So we are ready to come back for our next session with a deeper dive into Erasmus Plus Youth. So I'm handing over to Audrey. So Audrey, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you. I thought what would be good to start this session would be to kind of get a gauge of people's experience in Erasmus Plus. So we're going to do a Menti. I don't know if anyone's done the Menti before, but if you could go to menti.com, and if somebody, Emily, Christine, if you could put it in the chat, that would be great. That would be really helpful. So if you could go to menti.com, and then put in the code. I'll show it to you now. I'll share my screen and then you'll have it. So if you go to menti.com and then you put in the code 39672787. So that's 39672787. It's at the top of the screen there.
Great. It's in the chat as well if people want to copy and paste it in.
Yeah, so just to give us an idea, rate your experience in Erasmus Plus youth opportunities, so the different opportunities from totally not experienced to no idea, complete novice, right up to very experienced, you're super confident in each of these projects. Okay, so we've a bit of experience of cooperation in small scale. I'll give it another minute till a few more people join. I'm quite surprised actually. Normally when I do this scale, it's normally youth exchanges is the most experienced, and then small scale or the cooperation partnerships being the least. So this is an interesting one. Has everyone got onto the menti.com? Does anyone need any support with it?
It's not loading for me, unfortunately. I'm on a MacBook. It's Safari is not loading yet.
Okay.
Sometimes it can work on a phone as well. I know it's not ideal, but
yeah.
If I usually use it on another device if it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's a handy way to do it.
Yeah.
I'll try my phone. Thanks.
Okay, I just have a couple more to get through before we move on. Just give it another minute. Okay. So kind of down the lesser experience, the less experienced end of the spectrum. That's good to know. Oh, so we've already moved on to where are you on the scale? So like from a scale of, how, like, you know, this is terrifying to, oh, I'm ready to go, you know, want to get involved kind of thing, feel confident. Where are you on that scale? We kind of have a good range already. Some people are right down the bottom. So hopefully we'll be able to move you up that scale today a little bit. I'll give it just another minute so people can put where they are.
Would you be able to post that URL onto the chat? I'm just trying to use the Chrome browser, but it's still not loading. Maybe that might be the issue.
Okay.
Thank you.
So it should just be nt.com, and then you have to enter that code. Oh.
Okay, and then the last one that I asked, I've got lots of answers already. So what would you like to get from this training session? So knowledge, information, great. Hopefully I can provide some of that. Insights, pointers, how to apply, how to find partners, support's available, contact more info. Okay, yeah. Mostly kind of looking for insights and knowledge and guidance and things like that. So I think that is doable today. So I will stop with the Menti. You can keep adding your entries into it if you haven't got around to it yet. But I'm going to kind of carry on from where I left off earlier with the presentation on the youth program. So the Erasmus Plus Youth Programme, as I mentioned earlier, has a lot of different opportunities within it. I'll focus on all of the opportunities today, giving you a quick overview of what they are, but there is some experience of cooperation partnerships. So maybe these activities are probably the lesser experience. So within Key Action 1 Youth, there's youth participation projects, mobility of youth workers, and youth exchanges. You can also see in the slide, there's also something called Discover EU. This is something that Léargas don't quite manage. It's a centralized action, but it is an interesting opportunity. If anyone did want to find out more, I can provide you with some links and information, but essentially it's where young people can apply to do, apply for travel essentially. So they get like train tickets and things like that to be able to travel around Europe, kind of in a structured way. So kind of like structured interrailing, I suppose is one way to look at it. So the Erasmus Plus program, or the Erasmus Plus Youth program, is very much informed by the EU Youth Strategy. So there's 3 core areas of action within that youth strategy, and that's engage, connect, and empower. So the program is really about engaging, connecting, and empowering young people. That's what it's all about. So to give you an idea, youth exchanges connect, and that kind of seems quite logical because it brings young people together, it promotes intercultural dialogue, active citizenship, while developing young people's skills and competencies. So it really provides an opportunity to to bring young people across Europe into groups and have experiences like what Kelvin was talking about, have those kinds of those bonding and relationship building with their peers across Europe. Youth worker mobilities in power. So they're really about the professional development of youth workers, and the result of this is that the quality of youth work at a national, local, national and international level improves. So it essentially empowers youth workers, and because the quality of youth work is increasing or is enhanced, it also empowers young people. It also it provides more recognition for the value of youth work. So it kind of has that other effect as well. So it's empowering the youth work sector, I suppose. Participation projects engage. So it kind of seems as well logical. You know, they're really about encouraging, fostering and facilitating young people's participation in democratic life. So, you know, engage is a very good, very logical action with these kinds of projects. So within youth exchanges, so there's the youth exchange project itself, and then there's the youth exchange activity within that project. So the youth exchange activity itself is where groups of young people from 2 or more countries come together for 5 to 21 days for a non-formal learning activity supported by their group leaders. So these projects really should be informed by the interests and the needs of the young people. So they should be doing youth exchanges about topics that are important to them or activities that are interesting to them. So they're kind of the driving force behind these projects. So they're kind of for young people, by young people nearly, with the support of their group leaders. They're for young people aged 13 to 30 and their group leaders who must be over 18. So there is like minimum and maximum numbers that can be involved with this. So this is just good to kind of know the minimum number of young people involved in a youth exchange is 16, and that includes all of you and your partners. So if you have one partner, it's 8 per organization. If you have 2 partners, then it's, you know, 16 divided by 3. I'm not very good at maths. So I think it's 5 or 6 per group of young people. However, if you kind of exclusively or have a high proportion of young people with fewer opportunities involved within the project, you can actually lower that number to 10. So that's 10 for you and your partners. And this is just to ensure that the program is accessible to all young people. So if you have a target group that needs a little bit more support and works better in a smaller group, you know, you can have that number drop down to 10. And then there's a minimum of one leader per group. We would always recommend that you're guided by your own policies and practices to determine how many group leaders should accompany your group. So there are some key aims and objectives of these projects, and they're really about empowering young people to be active citizens. I think that was very clear from what Kelvin kind of highlighted, that how these projects really helped him develop himself in terms of his own citizenship. So that's really what they're kind of about. They foster intercultural dialogue because you're bringing groups of young people from different countries together. I think Rachel mentioned it as well, like that idea that, you know, they're different, you know, the young people may be different, but they're also kind of have a lot of similarities because of their youth and things like that. It strengthens European values, or that's the aim. So with those values, it's about breaking down prejudices and stereotypes. And then it raises awareness about socially relevant topics and socially relevant topics to young people themselves, so what they care about. The aim is to develop skills and attitudes of young people and to develop their own skills and competencies for life and also for their professional future. So you can kind of really see how youth exchanges can fit quite nicely within youth work and how youth work can fit quite nicely within youth exchanges. I do think that they're quite a nice complementary approaches. So then mobility projects for youth workers are really about, as I said, the professional development of youth workers. So the project itself can have what are called professional development activities. And this is where youth workers come together for 2 to 60 days, and they could do a range of different activities, which include seminars, training courses, networking and community building, study visits, job shadowing, etc. So this is what Rachel was talking about when she was saying, doing a youth worker mobility first. This is the kind of activity she's talking about. And these projects are for youth workers, for youth leaders, youth volunteers, anyone who's working with young people in a non-formal capacity, based around the principles of voluntary participation and ultimately to support the personal and social development of young people as well. So the maximum number of participants is 50. The minimum number really depends on what kind of activity you're going to carry out. If you're doing a seminar, it'll be less days. If you do a training course, maybe more days. It's really determined about the type of activity you carry out. So the aims and objectives of these projects are the professional development of youth workers. That's really what they're about. They're providing opportunities for youth workers to develop their skills and competencies. It's about the development of quality youth work. So these projects are meant to enhance the delivery of quality youth work. It provides a non-formal and informal learning opportunity. So youth workers get to experience this kind of learning as well. And then it contributes to the evolution of youth work organizations. So the youth workers, by learning and developing their skills, they bring that learning and those practices back to their organization, and that contributes to the organization's development. It also builds a community of youth workers to support projects. So, not only are we enhancing the skills of youth workers to deliver their youth work, but we're also enhancing their capacity to deliver international youth projects. So it kind of is a win-win in that regard. And then the impact should be on the youth workers' regular work with young people. So there should be a change or progression in how they work with their young people. That's the idea. So youth participation projects are kind of new within Key Action 1. They're a new old project, I would say. So they're kind of the new Key Action 3. Which is the youth dialogues that Dermot had mentioned before. So these are youth driven. They could be local or transnational, and they're participation projects that encourage youth participation in Europe's democratic life, and it supports young people's social and civic engagement. It's for young people aged 13 to 30, and you can include decision makers in these projects. The activities are quite broad, so it could be a workshop, debates, role plays, awareness raising, campaigns, online or offline interaction between young people and decision makers, consultations, information events, things like that. There's an option of having an event with these types of projects. So what NYCI used to do with their Young Voices events, that would have been an event within this kind of project. You can also have a mobility activity within these projects as an option. And the aims and objectives of these kinds of projects is to encourage youth participation in democratic life, in Europe's democratic life, to provide opportunities for young people both to learn and to engage and to participate in civic society. So to learn how to do that, raise awareness of EU values. I realize there's a typo there. Raise awareness of EU values and fundamental rights, and to contribute to one or more of the EU youth goals. So there are 11 EU youth goals that kind of that these projects are meant to contribute to. I won't talk about those EU goals, but there are 11 of them, and they're very straightforward. And you're probably, if you're working with young people, you're probably already working on one of those youth goals. So, do have a look at them if you are interested in getting involved in this kind of project, but don't be put off by the idea of connecting to policy or things like that, because they are very accessible youth goals. So they're about developing young people's digital skills and media literacy. So that's a really important part of these projects. That's why there is the option of doing kind of online activities and things like that as well. And then bringing young people together with decision makers. That's a kind of key component as well within these projects. So the KA2 Youth Strategic partnerships, there has been a little bit of a change within the new program. So we used to just have one kind of KA2 project. Now it's kind of divided into two different KA2 projects. So there's the cooperation partnerships, and these are where organizations and groups from different countries come together to share good practices, develop new ideas in the field of youth. So developing innovative practices, things like that. And then there's small scale partnerships. And small scale partnerships are small scale partnerships. So they're smaller projects, they're lower grant amounts, shorter durations and simpler administration. So they kind of have flexible formats as well. So you can do transnational or national activities. Obviously everything would have a European dimension. So the idea behind the small scale partnerships is that they're accessible to newcomers, less experienced and grassroots organizations. So if a less experienced or a smaller organization wants to get involved in a more of a strategic partnership, this is an entry to that kind of work. So the aims and objectives of these projects are to increase the quality of work and practices of the organizations. It's also about building capacity of organizations to work transnationally. So, by being involved in these projects, you kind of get that experience of what it's like to be an international organization. They address the common needs and priorities of the youth field. So a lot of what we talked about before about the priorities of the program and the different priorities or the aims and objectives of the other projects, they're also contributing to those. So they enable transformation and change. So they're really a driving force behind, progress and change within an organization in a positive way. They promote active citizenship and, or these are some of the priorities of these projects, is to promote active citizenship and youth entrepreneurship. So these are all directly linked again to the EU Youth Strategy. So to increase quality, innovation and recognition of youth work. So that's a big crucial one for the youth field, is that it's about the recognition of youth work. So valuing what youth work does. Strengthen the employability of young people. So by, developing, you could be doing a strategic partnership where you're developing a program that is going to support young people in their skills and competency development. And then it reinforces links between policy, research and practice. So these are quite a nice one to kind of look at that side of the youth work. So why Erasmus Plus? I don't think I need to really explain why, because I think the panelists that we had earlier, I think painted a really good picture of why get involved in these kinds of programs. But there are some statistics about these international youth projects. So there is a project called Ray Research, and you can, the link is in this, and I'll be sharing these slides afterwards. So you can have a look through the Ray Research and find out the different statistics around these kinds of projects. But just to give you an idea, that 85% of participants from 31 countries, so that's 23,571 participants, 85% agreed or strongly agreed that they were better able to identify opportunities for personal and professional development. So you can see that they were empowered from these projects to be able to identify their own opportunities in life. And then research across 31 countries again, but this involved 5,007 participants, and these were more of a youth worker and youth organization perspective. 93% agreed or strongly agreed that they had learned more about how to actively involve young people in youth work. 90% of project leaders agreed or strongly agreed that their organization had increased appreciation of cultural diversity through their project. So there is a huge impact to these kinds of projects, and there's plenty of research there to support that. If you are trying to get the buy-in from other people in your organization, I think the statistics and stories help, a combination of both. And then I'm just going to end here. So what you need to apply, deadlines. So there are specific deadlines for application each year. I had hoped today there would be an announcement by this point of the deadline. I think it will be today. I think there will be an announcement of the Erasmus Plus deadline for 2022. So there's no more deadlines for this year. And I'm 99% certain that there will be an announcement today. So you can check out our website. That will probably go up later on today. So fingers crossed. So, there will be, you will have an idea of when you can actually apply shortly. So you need a partner for the projects that involve a partner. So for youth exchanges, youth worker mobilities, and the strategic partnerships, you need a partner before you actually apply. For youth participation projects, because you don't have to have a partner in those projects, you don't actually have to have a partner to apply. But if you're involving a partner, you need to have your partner before applying. Then obviously you need to have your project. So before starting your application, before even looking at the application form, I think having a good project idea in mind, you know, and if it's a youth exchange, youth participation project, and even a youth worker mobility, you know, a consultation with young people, consultation with youth workers would be the starting point for that kind of thing. And then there is some things that you will need, like things like registration and an EU login. So there's like a thing called your organization ID and all that kind of stuff. But you start with your project idea, start with getting your partners, things like that. And then Léargas we have events where we guide you through those other steps, like getting your registration and your EU login. So I'm going to stop sharing there. And if there is any questions on any of that.
I think there was one, Audrey, in the chat there, just 1 second, from Dennis Hines. If you have a US-based youth agency looking to develop links with Ireland and other EU countries, is this applicable to this fund, or do all partners have to be EU-based?
No, all partners do not have to be EU-based. I might actually just get out the program guide. Yeah. So within, I might just actually show it, because it is the Bible, I suppose, for want of a better word. This here is the program guide, and it has all of the information that you need to know about the program. And on it, in page, I think I'll go back actually. I think it's like page 35 or something like that. Bear with me. There is a list of projects that can be involved, or countries that can be involved in the program. So you can see the eligible countries is the program countries. So this is a list of the program countries. So it doesn't just involve the member states, it also involves other non-EU program countries. So these are all involved in the program. So they can be either applicants or they can be a partner in these projects. And then there's what's called partner countries. And for the youth, Key Action 1 youth program, there's region 1, region 2, region 3, and region 4 can be involved in those projects. For strategic partnerships, I'll stop sharing there. I'll share a link with you. I'll show you where you can find out where the program guide lives, so you can get yourself. For strategic partnerships, if you're involving a partner country, it needs to be justified as to why you're including them in the project. So that's the difference. I hope that kind of answered. So I don't think the US is actually a partner country for the youth program, but definitely check out the program guide yourself and have a look through. I hope that answers.
Yep, and don't be daunted by the program guide. It's 300 pages long. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, don't look.
You don't need to read every bit of it. That's crazy. I've done that before and it was awful. So not, you need to look at the youth section. So it's a guide for the entire Erasmus Plus program, which is huge. Whereas the youth section is actually quite succinct. So it's not as daunting as it might look immediately. So if there are any other questions, I know, Audrey, you did want to do breakout rooms. Will we see if anybody else, if they want to unmute themselves and ask questions, or do you want to come back to that later? Or
I think we can come back to it. I actually just wanted to, I know we're a little bit behind, but I did want to to show one video. I think it's a really good resource. So I'm going to share screen again, sharing different things. Sorry. So there is a resource that was developed with NYCI, NUI Maynooth and Léargas, which is a youth work on you. It's generally a good resource, but they actually just recently developed a module on international youth work specifically, and they have a load of videos and different content and everything. They're a really good supportive resource if you are looking to get involved. But this video, I think it's worthwhile showing, so I'll just show it, and you'll see Rachel here as well. And think my sound is shared, so if it's not, just let me know.
Yeah. So the benefits of international youth work that I have seen for the young people of Finglas has been amazing. Like, it completely makes them step outside their comfort zone, it broadens their horizon, they start to think, you know, there's actually a world outside of Finglas. It also kind of makes them actually appreciate some of the things that they have, or question some of the things that happens in Ireland that maybe doesn't happen in other countries. And we've seen anyone that has participated in youth exchanges here, you can see their confidence level has increased. They've applied for jobs or college courses that they wanted to, but maybe didn't feel like before that they were able to do because they were from Finglas. It just gave them a new lease of life, which is just amazing. And it also kind of opens up the fact that, you know, they're European citizens, and that opportunity that can bring to you as well.
Most of our work has been with young people aged 18 to 24, 25. And many of those young people, they tended to be isolated. They came together and they committed to a project that became a real positive force in their lives. And what happened then was that it led to these explosions in terms of their sense of self-worth and self-esteem, and most particularly their self-confidence. Following in the path of that is this ability to engage with your wider world. So they had new perspectives, but they also had this reservoir of self-confidence that they could draw on to improve their kind of sense of determination to go and engage. They created friendships and relationships, and that really makes such a difference to yourself and to your self-confidence and to everything. And what happened was that the young people were able to unlock their own potential.
We learned a lot by having encounters with other youth theatres and theatre organisations in Europe about the methods and the ways of using theatre that they used, none of which were available or visible in Ireland. So hands-on, going for a week, looking at how artists worked with young people, looking at the setup of their organisation, the policies they had in place, how they involved young people in decision-making. And that enhanced our organisation, and we took some of those policies on board and adapted them for an Irish context and started to use the ones that worked really well.
I did the certificate in European Mobility Project Management, and it really reignited my passion for using Erasmus Plus programmes.
The kind of work that young people in their heart want to make happen. So making the link between policy and practice, and then being able to link.
I think we lost the video a bit there, Audrey.
And for them to be able to put that into a project that's ultimately about making life better for LGBT young people. So I can now bring the resources to the young people for the projects that they want to do with other young people across Europe that really matter to them.
International youth work has been a game changer for us in Involved Meath. It has given us opportunities that we never had before, and it also gives a great carrot for us as youth workers to keep young people involved in our project. We also participated in MICI's Young Voices conferences across the country. Going to these conferences gave our young people the opportunity to see that their voice was important, that it was important to be heard on certain topics that are youth related. Participating in our own K3 gave us the opportunity then to explore things on a closer level for young travellers living in Ireland.
We have discovered that the impact of youth exchanges are not only on the young people themselves, but on the organisation, their communities and the wider society as a whole. Throughout the whole process of a youth exchange, young people are directly involved in the decisions that affect them. Their experiences and learnings from the youth exchange then has a ripple effect when they come back to their local community, when they speak with their parents, teachers, classmates and families about their new experiences, awareness and understandings.
It's all about supporting development of youth and social service. It's to create positive social change in the world. So to address social disadvantage, to address educational disadvantage, to bring people from all kinds of backgrounds together. There's so much learning to be gained by connecting with organizations outside your own country, outside your own kind of cultural context. When you do it, you will not look back. I mean, I think that now more than ever, it's so important that young people make friends outside their own country borders. We have to show young people that the issues and the challenges that they may face in a small village in rural Ireland they're not alone. They are actually universal issues. There are young people all over the world who share those things. I think it's really important that we keep connecting with people, that we don't stay in our own little bubbles. And this is something that is a duty, I think, for any youth worker in Ireland, actually, to show the young people that the world is a bigger place than just the town where they live in.
Yeah, so that's just a little taster of the Youth Work and You module on international youth work. I do really recommend, and I'll share the link afterwards with Christine so she can follow up with you with that link. I do really recommend it as a resource because it's kind of interactive. There's videos that stop at certain points and then you can kind of delve into more details at certain points. So it is a really nice resource, and you can do it at your own pace as well. I did want to do, yes, a bit of just reflection for yourself and in groups about kind of your fears and expectations, or the hopes and opportunities that you see within the Erasmus Plus program and what you've just heard. So like thinking about all those different opportunities and what you just heard, I'm going to just share a Jamboard with you. I don't know if anyone has used Jamboard before. If anyone needs any support with it, let us know. So the Jamboard is in the chat, and I'll just share my screen now as well. So yes, are you still seeing it? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, thinking about, I think fears are an easier place to start. People always find it easier to put their fears down. So looking at your fears or concerns with getting involved in European projects. So what fears do you have? Where are your roadblocks or barriers to getting involved? What areas do you need more support or guidance to get involved? And then think about the hopes and opportunities. So, you know, what excites you about international youth work? Where do you fit within the program? So what action or what priorities that we mentioned? And what are the potential benefits? And if you're already experienced in both these things, you know, think about, you know, reassuring people who maybe are less experienced. So you will obviously still have fears and concerns about being involved in these projects. I think they never really go away, but you'll also be able to inspire people based on your experience, like, so what opportunities you see. So if you could just take like a minute to gather your thoughts for this, and then we'll meantime get you into breakout groups to then share and discuss your fears and concerns and your hopes and opportunities.
Great, okay. So maybe, Christina, do you want to go ahead and get the breakout rooms set up?
Okay, they should have started.
I didn't go in. I just wanted to give them a minute before maybe I join in.
Oh yeah, totally fine. Well, I also will stay outside, I think, just for people if they drop out or anything else. So just that I'm here. I will stay in the main room.
Yeah.
Okay, I created 4 rooms because what is always happening is that if you announce breakout rooms, people just run away. So
yeah,
so the participants dropped.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed.
It's always like that. I know that already.
I think people just don't really enjoy like online interaction like that.
Yeah, actually, and they can just leave without losing their face, right? So it's not, it's just say, they just need to say, oh, look, I'm gone. So it would be different if you're on the spot. So
yeah,
I think, but it's really happened the minute before. So we were above 30 until this point, and then it was like, zoop.
Yeah, that's okay. I think some people maybe get intimidated and they think, oh, I'm not ready for this, or
Okay.
do you know?
Room 4 is right now asking me for help.
I can go in, yeah, if you want to put me in. Yep.
Yeah. So wait, how do I do this now? How do I put you in room 4?
I think you can move me, so you can, if you hover over my name and on the right hand side, it should say move to. To me.
No, can't do that. Can't actually, don't put you in a room. Why not? Can you go into room if I do make you a co-host?
If you make me co-host, I think I can move her in. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Sorry.
So I can.
I don't see the possibility.
Oh, they're on their own. That's why, is there?
Oh yeah, that could be.
You can move as Aisling.
Aisling. I could. I put her in room 3. Okay.
Yeah, and then I can go to room 3 and just make sure.
Ah, you're clever. I'm I'm not. Yeah. Now we have like, okay, in room 2 it's only 2 people, so it's Emma with Lola, but this, I think it's fine. Then we have 3 in each. Okay. Good.
Okay, I'll join room 3.
Okay, so in the end, probably, and even more people dropped out. I don't know. Okay, so the others also coming back now. Welcome back, everyone. Hello.
Okay, so we might have had a couple of people cut off, but that's okay. Audrey, over to you.
Okay.
Yeah, just if anyone wants to give any feedback on their fears or concerns or their hopes or opportunities, I'd invite you to share now. There's no obligation to share, but if you would like to share, this is your opportunity.
I can give a couple of points of what came up in our little breakout room.
Yeah.
So just issues around partnership. I think there was a kind of how do you go about building partnerships and what kind of supports are available there. So Audrey, you might be able to mention anything from a Léargas perspective, but from an Access Europe perspective, we do have a training that brings you through the process of how to set up a partnership. This isn't an exact science. There is no one process, but this is a process that has worked for the wheel and that we recommend as a way of kind of building partnership and kind of mitigating some of the risks that can come up. It's unavoidable. There's always risks in projects, and sometimes partnership is a bit of a risk. So it's just about kind of reducing that as much as possible. So we're very happy to share that with anybody who might be interested in it. And as I mentioned previously, we are in the middle of building a partnership database. We'll be launching it on the 13th of December. Please do come to our event to launch that. Where you can kind of upload your profile, present your organization basically, and it's a handy tool to kind of communicate yourself to partners. And then also we'll push that out into Europe so that hopefully more and more people will be inviting Irish organizations into partnerships. But I don't know, Audrey, was there anything else from a Léargas perspective around partnership?
Yeah, so one of the, there is some resources to find partners. So there's a Salto, there's a platform called Salto, which is a platform for international training as well, but there's also a tool within it called Oatless, and I can share all these links after, which is a partner finding tool, so that could be useful. The only thing is that we often say that particularly when you're working with young people, that sometimes it's good to meet your partners first, like face to face, rather than through a digital platform. So one of the ways that you can do that is through international training events that Léargas organise. So we have actual contact making seminars and things like that, which are kind of often topical. So we've one that's coming up in May called Queer Erasmus. So it's for organizations working with LGBT plus young people who want to find partners with similar kind of values and work approaches and things like that. So that's a really useful way of finding a partner that sits well with you. So I can show you the website in a minute and show you where you can find them. There's nothing coming up in the next month or so. Everything's winded down for the rest of the year, but there will be things in the new year that might be of interest.
Great. And are those just a question on those, Audrey, from my own perspective? Are they held? Are you planning to have them in person next year? Or are they, maybe there's a bit of a question mark over? Okay.
I mean, the intention is that they're like the Erasmus one is meant as a face-to-face because it's a partner finding event. We felt it would be a face-to-face activity because it was actually supposed to happen last year, but got cancelled and moved to next year. So we are hoping that there will be some face-to-face. We have had some online ones and they are still useful, but obviously it is nice to meet your partner in real life.
And would they be held in Ireland or in Brussels or?
So depending on if Léargas is organising it, then it's hosted in Ireland. But we also support a certain number of participants to participate in other national agencies training events. So or these they're transnational, so they involve people from all over Europe. So we also support a certain number of participants to participate on those activities as well. So you have the option of doing one in country or going abroad yourself and doing it as well.
And how do you, sorry, I'm hijacking, but I'm just interested because I'd heard of these and I didn't know how they worked. So do you apply for funding to attend, or how does that work?
You apply through Salto, and there is normally a participation fee participation fee of about €60, and this is just to, it's a participation fee, but everything else is covered by the national agency by Léargas cover everything else.
Yeah, I heard about them and I just wasn't 100% sure how they worked. So that sounds like a really
and the benefit is as well is the application forms are really simple. Like it's not like a proper big project application form. So it's a kind of more accessible way to get in to that kind of international work as a starting point.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's any information about that, Audrey, actually, maybe just anything that comes up, just throw it onto us and then we'll include everything in the follow-up email, all the links and everything like that. Did anybody else have anything that came up that they want to address? See who will crack.
Suppose for me, Emma, I'll just say, I suppose, coming at it from a slightly different perspective, we've been working in the North now for 40 years, Include Youth, with care experience young people, but have recently registered as an All-Ireland charity. So we're looking to develop work in the South. We are working in Donegal and stuff, but we're looking to sort of broaden that out. So Erasmus Plus does sound like something that once we get programs off the ground, that we'll maybe be able to talk to Léargas about, possibly supporting some of the young people who are going to be participating on those projects. But it sounds like there's a lot of help there in terms of identifying the need and building suitable applications. So it definitely sounds like something, excuse me for all my throat, sounds like something that I'll definitely keep on the radar for when we do get things off the ground in the South.
Absolutely. Yeah, Audrey, I think it's a question that happens a lot is about partnership in Northern Ireland as well, and
it's unfortunate really, because we used to have a program called Causeway, which finished in 2019, which was a North-South, East-West youth mobility program, but that's now finished. And then shortly after, the UK pulled out of the program and are not an eligible partner either. But there is possibilities or scope, I think, because you can co-fund these projects. So if you wanted to, you would have to have partners as well. So like, say, for example, you could have your own organization based in Ireland and a partner in Spain and a partner in Finland, and you could still include a UK partner, but they would just have to fund themselves. You could still involve them in that project. We've seen projects like that happen before, where a project in Cork involved Northern Ireland, this is before the UK left, so Northern Ireland, Ireland, Palestine, Israel and Switzerland. And Switzerland were not, surprisingly, were not a partner or a program country. The others were all involved in the program at the time. So they funded themselves through their own program and participated in the project. So the scope for that.
And I think that there is a push, I think, and maybe when Brexit settles, that there will be some kind of funding instrument established in Northern Ireland to facilitate young people particularly, but any Erasmus Plus project, to allow them to be involved, hopefully. So we'll see what happens, but I think we'll keep pushing for it anyway and see. The more people ask for it, the more it might get on the agenda. So I'm just conscious of time, so I might, and we have a few things to kind of wrap up. Audrey, so we hand over, and if there are any questions, obviously people can reach out afterwards as well.
Yeah, I did just want to very quickly show you the website, just because the website, we just recently updated it, and it's actually quite useful because there's nice videos. So if you wanted to have a look at what the projects are like, there's some really nice ones, and then you kind of is a one-stop shop. So this is where you can find, you can kind of go through the website to find the program guide. So, and then it's broken up into each project type within the youth program. So you can kind of link out to the youth worker mobilities and see what they're about. And then this is the Youth Work U module that I spoke about, or it's the resource. And then there's some other things like Eurodesk and Youth Wiki and things like that that you can link out to. And then it also has the steps of like how to go about, applying, and even like links out to that Outlets partner finding tool, things like that. This video is actually one of Kelvin's projects that he was involved in, so a nice little watch if you wanted to have a look afterwards. And then it has like upcoming events and things like that. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for everything that you need. It's much better than it used to be. It used to be kind of a bit hard to find things, but now I think it's, the youth page is all together and then links out to the relevant information that you need to know. So that was the last thing that I just wanted to cover. I was going to do quick Menti, but I think, we're a smaller group now, so we might leave it. But if you did have anything that you wanted to put even in the chat of like one takeaway that you have from today, like what is it that is going to sit with you for the rest of the day? What's the big takeaway? If you had one word or a sentence that you wanted to share in the chat.
And while people are doing that, while they're typing, I might just kind of quickly mention, first of all, just say a huge thank you to Léargas and to Audrey, especially for all of her help and support today and for coordinating this with us. And just to say, absolutely engage with Léargas. They're the 100% experts on this program, and they will be able to answer all of your questions around anything to do with Erasmus Plus. There are going to be follow-on events from this. So this one was based on youth. Next week we're doing one on volunteering, and the week after that, and the European Solidarity Corps, which is the program for volunteering that Léargas also manage. And then the following week after that, we're going to be doing a session around inclusion in adult education and the opportunities there. So you might be interested in those. Please do sign up. As I said, then there'll be our final session, our kind of Access Europe end of year one conference showcase and launch of our partnership database will be on the 13th of December. So we'd really encourage you to sign up for that. We've got Minister Thomas Byrne, who will be our kind of guest speaker there, and Ambassador Eamon McKay, who is with the Permanent Representation in Brussels, will also be a speaker at that event. So it's well worth attending. And just from an Access Europe perspective, we provide kind of wraparound supports around all aspects of EU funding. So if you have an idea and maybe it doesn't fit within Erasmus Plus, maybe it's something more that's the new Peace programme, which will be out next year, if it's about North-South collaboration, if it's something to do with more research and innovation or citizenship, equality, rights, values, that kind of side of things, we can help direct you to any other programmes where your idea might live. And we also do kind of wraparound supports and things like project management, partnership building. We can review applications, grant writing skills, all that kind of stuff. So don't hesitate to reach out. But we have some nice, and Christina has pushed all of the links of those events into the chat box there. So thanks for that. But some nice takeaways there around understanding and insight and support and opportunities. So that's great. So that's really it. Did you have anything else, Audrey, that you wanted to mention?
Keep an eye out for the deadlines later today. Yeah. That's it. I think it will be today. Fingers crossed. And yeah, thank you so much everyone for your attention and for participating. And I hope you got what you wanted from the day.
Great. Thanks a million, everybody. Have a great day. Right. Enjoy the rest of it.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.